We mentioned Moises Caicedo picked up a red card in that game. I believe if you include Maresca's, it was Chelsea's 7th of the season, which we often, as journalists, we've spoken a lot about a discipline problem and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think it's a discipline problem, but more one of naivety in this Chelsea team. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they're one and the same thing, really. You look at the start of that game, Chelsea had Arsenal, who were definitely a little weary after midweek. They weren't at their usual standard. As we've talked about, Chelsea, matching them in that physical battle, they were doing everything really well. But just a few of them were stepping over the line a bit. Cucurella absolutely flew through Bukayo Saka within the first couple of minutes, was on a booking very quickly, and then was tied in knots by him for Mikel Merino's goal, because he couldn't get near him and he couldn't put him on the floor, because he would have been gone, and Caicedo was already gone by that point thanks to his reckless challenge. And I think Caicedo's been due a red card. There's been a few challenges this season and last that he's been lucky to get away with and not been sent off. The hard thing to get your head around is that if we go back to Cucurella as the example, he was so cute and niggly, and dark arts is probably the thing. It's what everyone loves to see in their players. That's how he approached Lamine Yamal in the week, and rightfully was lauded to high heaven about how he'd marked him out of the game, had him in his pocket. Saka did the exact same thing to Cucurella, and he bought into it and went through him. He often plays on the edge and just went over it in this game. Caicedo the same. It wasn't a challenge that really needed making. There was a bit of a slip in there, I think. But to go in with your studs up like that, it was daft, and it was absolutely a red card.
Without a doubt.
Taylor didn't see it at the time. But if Chelsea had 11 men, they win that game, and they're 3 points off Arsenal in the Premier League. The way it was going, Chelsea would have won that game. They took the lead with 10 men. They would have... And there was no real sense of the game where there was a 10, 15-minute spell where you thought, Arsenal are going to do it here. They're really pushing them in. They're strangling Chelsea. They're making the most of that one-man advantage. So if that one-man advantage hadn't been there, I've got no doubt in my mind that Chelsea would have gone on to do that. And Caicedo's red card is what's cost them that. They were brilliant without him. They were so disciplined. They still threatened them. Maresca should be really proud of that. But he's still got this problem to solve. I don't think he helps too much at times. We sort of saw this with Arsenal a couple of years ago. They were getting red cards left, right and centre, and Arteta was crossing the line in terms of his
very
passion.
Animated, isn't he, Maresca?
He is. And Arteta was, and he's reined it in a touch. I know he still riles a few people and opposing managers, more often than not. But Maresca is incredibly emotional. We've seen him, obviously he had his red card for running down the touchline. We've seen him have to stop himself from doing that in quite a few games since, where he sort of sets off after a goal and then has to turn round and almost does it with a smile on his face and a bit of a laugh going back, having checked himself. But he's incredibly passionate, which they're big games. He's a manager that's not been.
And you like to see that. You like to see passion.
We'd rather that than they're all robots.
Exactly.
Time and again, we always say something silly in a press conference, please, because it doesn't really matter. It's entertaining, and we like to see that. It's just how it then feeds onto a young team. Most of them in this sort of situation where maybe they're in a title challenge, maybe they're not for the first time, going up against these big games, a big week. The emotion's going to be high, the passion's going to be there. But I think Maresca jumping about on the touchline does hurt his team at times. He's obviously not the one diving into these daft challenges. The full blame is there, and he's got to find a way to deal with that. But every team has these little wrinkles. They put in a fantastic performance, and it's one they should be proud of. But if you're going to compete at this high level throughout the season, these are the small margins that you need to iron out. And it's definitely something that still needs to be addressed. We thought they got over it. 5 games without a red card. Somebody must have had a haircut somewhere, if we're going to do this sort of thing.
Wasn't me.
But it needs to be ironed out, and it needs to be ironed out before, like we've said, we get to that run in February, March, April.
Well, I think, like you said, you summed it up really well there. I think Chelsea, to give them credit, didn't look like they had 10 players on the pitch. You couldn't tell if you weren't counting the players, you wouldn't have thought they only had 10.
It's because they've had plenty of practice playing with 10.
Yeah, exactly. But it's those, like you said, it's those games where if Chelsea picked up a win against Arsenal, the same against Man United, that early red card in that one, if they picked up 3 points there, they'd be a point behind Arsenal, and all of a sudden this title conversation becomes much more of that. It becomes much more of a conversation. So who knows if they can iron it out? Maybe there's still a chance that they'll go and really battle for this title if Arsenal drop points elsewhere. Who knows? It's going to be an entertaining next few weeks, because I think the next few games really for Chelsea, and as a Chelsea fan, you've almost dreaded Decembers in the past few years, because it seems to all be going well, it's all going fine, and then these kind of tough away games similar to what they've got coming up in Leeds and Bournemouth, they're the type of games where Chelsea have historically almost like struggled, especially in the winter months where the games are, like we said, coming thick and fast. They can be really, really difficult. So,
and they've now got to do them without Caicedo.
Yeah, they've now got to do them without Caicedo. So Santos and possibly Dario Sugo, now that he's back, are going to have to step up big time, like they did away at Burnley. And Burnley was another one, to be fair, of those games where you went into it kind of thinking, this could be a banana skin, an early kickoff after an international break. This could be really tricky. And I think if Chelsea can come up big in these next two games against Leeds and Bournemouth, with Cole Palmer coming back as well, Leeds United, you're a fine team, but we've got a celebration to have. We've got a homecoming party to have on this away game on Wednesday. So best of luck to Leeds. I think Cole Palmer's going to come back. He's going to be fit and firing. He's going to be ready. And Santos and Asugo are going to have to step up in Caicedo's absence, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's something that, you mentioned Palmer coming back. Everyone else has stepped up in his absence. There's only been a couple of games where Sunderland, probably the most obvious one, where you've sat there and thought they really miss what he brings. And that's completely fair enough. He's one of the best players in the Premier League. It's not Chelsea's fault that they miss a player of Cole Palmer's talent. But what everyone else has done, Enzo Fernandez, I know you hated him this weekend, but stepping forward into that number 10 role has done a really good job without Palmer there.
Yeah.
And I suppose the blessing in disguise that without Caicedo, Palmer coming back means that Enzo Fernandez is going to have to drop back into that, 6-8 role where he would be alongside Caicedo to allow Palmer to come back in as the number 10. And they just need to almost do what they've done without Palmer while Caicedo's not there. Caicedo has been playing with a knock as well. That might help him long term get through these December games, get through to the end of the season without big injury problems. So if they can sort of pull that spirit together again, as they have done, Maresca can keep them all on that level while Caicedo's not there, Santos will be desperate for a chance.
Do you think it'll be Santos who comes in? So kind of Santos, Enzo, and then Palmer?
Given that Reece James probably can't keep going in that midfield role again and again,
wouldn't play, pretty much.
It probably has to be Santos for now, and it's a great chance for him to come in and show what he can do. He's looked neat and tidy at times when he's come in, but he's never had a real chance. And now,
very good against Burnley,
with a block of 3 games to go through, he has that chance to stake a claim and put some solid performances back to back. So you'd like to think he's seeing this as an opportunity and a challenge that he's got to rise to.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think he was man of the match against Burnley, played really well. Asugo it almost works for Asugo because he can kind of come in now that he's back. He's been training with the team. Now he can kind of come back and he can be second place, whereas if Caicedo's fit and ready and not suspended, he would probably be third behind Andrey Santos now in that kind of pecking order. So maybe it'll work out for the best for Chelsea.